This is Gray.
This is Mel.
This is Liz.
And we want to welcome you to Chuck versus the Podcast, episode 93 for Monday, November 7th, 2011. We have a new episode of Bearded Chuck to discuss. But first, a couple of quick news hits.
Well, you know, we always bring you the ratings, and this week I wish I wasn't having to do this, but the Chuck Season 5 premiere opened to some pretty terrible numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1.0 in the 18 to 49 demo, with approximately 3.4 million viewers tuning into the new Friday night time slot, which is, I think we could pretty much all guess, a series low.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, those are rerun numbers. They did it. Speaking of reruns, NBC did rerun Chuck and Grimm the following night on Saturday night, which if you want to add them together, that brings the demo up to like a 1.3 and like 4.5 million people watched.
Mm-hmm.
But those aren't good. It was up against Game 7 of the World Series.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much guaranteed low viewership. I'm going to be really interested once the DVR numbers come out to see what that does,
mm-hmm.
if that boosts it up. And, you know, there's the networks are taking that into account more, the DVR numbers. However, this is the final season. We already know that. So we don't really have to stress over these numbers as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
It'd still be nice if it went out on a high note. But, you know, before you ask, NBC's not going to cancel the show before they air all 13 episodes.
Yeah.
They're going to air them. And, you know, I've also been seeing, again, kind of a revival of well, what about USA Network could pick it up? It'd be perfect for USA. They don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't done that for years. The last time they picked up a show that ran on another network was Criminal Intent in 2007. So they're in the business of making their own scripted TV, not picking up other people's scripted
and
shows.
Pretty good scripted TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that ship has sailed. But again, you know, NBC's not going to cancel this. They're not going to pull it before all 13 episodes air. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris Vidak participated in a conference call with reporters last week to tease the rest of season 5. We have the full transcript with questions and answers, including some questions from chucktv.net. We have that posted on the site, so get on over there, take a quick read through.
And that was a fun Twitter feed to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if quick's the right word, Liz. That is a long transcript.
Yeah, that's true.
Long.
It's a quick read, not too quick to transcript. But if you're me, it's not too quick to transcript.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
That took a while, but it was worth it, I think. There was some good information in there, and you'll see that I was actually the one that was on the call with him for Chuck TV, and I kind of yelled at him because he pulled the old, it could be good, it could be bad. I'm like, why are you going to be that way?
Yeah.
We emailed later. We're all good. It's good.
Uh-huh.
But,
yeah. And also, if you head over to tvwriterpodcast.com or blip.tv/TV Writer Podcast, there's an interview with Phil Klemmer, who wrote actually next week's episode. And it was unlike some of the other writer interviews that I do on that podcast, it was just a laid back catching up with Phil. And it was just really nice talking with him. It was, I also put his season 2 interview right ahead of it. And I listened to it again before taping the interview with him. And it's really, really fun to go back and see what they were thinking back in the season 2 and how they felt about the show, and then to see how everybody feels about the show now. And you can tell they're already starting to get a little sentimental about it ending soon, because for them, I mean, production ends December 7th. And so it's already kind of the beginning of the end for the people on the inside. So he talked a little bit about that, and I encourage you to watch that interview. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, before we get to our discussion of the Bearded One, we're going to have a quick sponsor time. If you pay attention to great films and TV shows, you'll notice the camera is always moving, not panning or tilting like on a tripod, but smoothly moving through space. This week's featured sponsors have products that help you move the camera in different ways, and they don't have to break the bank. You'll find the Cinemover for only $80 at moveyourcamera.com. It can operate as a track dolly or a table dolly. Amazing value. If you want lightweight and affordable camera gear, go to indiesystem.com. You'll find shoulder rigs, jibs, sliders, and more at very affordable prices. Or, for a more heavyweight, longer-reaching camera crane, go to cameracrane.com for the comely crane and look for the Steady Freddy as well. But how do you focus when your camera's on a crane or a jib? Lightcraft Workshop has an amazing USB follow focus for Canon DSLR cameras. Part 2 of our sponsor messages will be after the episode discussion. Bearded Bandit. Good? Bad? Thumbs up? Thumb down?
Ultimately, thumbs up. But the first half, I think we were supposed to be off kilter and wondering what the heck was going on because Morgan was, as we saw at the end there, he was less and less himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we were supposed to be feeling maybe a little uncomfortable about it, but I felt uncomfortable. I didn't like it.
So what exactly didn't you like? Like what specifically?
It felt schizophrenic. I mean, we had that scene in the part of what didn't help was all the Halloween decorations. And I mentioned that before that, I think in last week's podcast that just kind of threw me off. And in my review too, knowing that it was going to air after Halloween, I was like, I don't like that. I like things to match, so that kind of was a little tiny little piece, but that scene in the convenience store felt really slapsticky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just kind of all over the place. And I understand where they were going with it. I just felt like it could have been executed better. But, once we got to the really meaty stuff with Gertrude Verbanski and Chuck trying to, kind of realizing something's wrong, Casey getting a little more screen time, that started to gel for me. So by the end of it, and then that nice twist with Morgan getting hired on at Verbanski Corp, that saved the episode for me.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about this? Obviously, we know that with these Halloween decorations all over the place, they wouldn't put them so obviously in unless there was some kind of storyline around Halloween. And then obviously when it was moved, it would have been sliced and diced. Do you think that affected the story at all?
No, because I had the screener before NBC moved it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
And
so, it was locked. It was locked way before.
So there was no mention of the Halloween or anything like that.
When?
In the screener that you saw, it was just a bunch of Halloween decorations around and no mention of it.
Yeah, it's exactly what aired. It's exactly what aired on
Really?
TV.
Interesting.
I think it was just kind of a subtle way to say, yeah, we know this is airing Halloween weekend, but we're not doing a full blown Halloween episode. So
interesting. Yeah, I mean, it didn't bug me so much. I mean, I do see what you mean about the first half being a little more all over the place. Actually, in some ways, I kind of liked, like, we had a scene in the car, we had a scene in the convenience store. It felt more on location than some of the episodes in the past have felt.
I don't mean literally all over the place. I mean tonally.
Oh, I know. And in the very beginning, how they introduced the Verbanski folk, it felt maybe just a little bit set up, like when they finished their presentation and they couldn't get the PowerPoint to finish, and they went and sat down looking so geeky. It felt a little forced in the beginning, but it wrapped up nicely in the end, and there were a lot of fun moments. I thought I'm really enjoying Morgan and his intersectness, and what I really enjoy especially is how different he is than Chuck. Like Chuck, he was in the car. And you remember he was actually in the car gratefully because he was so scared of what was going on in some ways in season 1.
At first, yeah.
At first, where Morgan is like, he wants to take off, he wants to save the day by himself, and that kind of thing. So I am enjoying these differences.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, seeing the parallels of, okay, Morgan has to stay in the car. Chuck had to stay in the car. Morgan has to stay in the car. The Intersect, you need the handler. to manage this. You can't just assume that because he knows what the Intersect is and he's watched Chuck use it for, knowingly for at least the last, I guess it'd be about 2 years in their time, that you can't just assume that he's going to know how to do it. I think that's something that they realized was, he actually needs some help. He actually needs some guidance here. And Chuck's, of course, the perfect person to do it. Partially because, as Sarah said, he brings out the best in people, but also, he's the one who has Intersect experience. So I thought it was nice that she brought up the fact that Chuck is, last week it was you're a good leader, and this week it was you bring out the best in people, which is, that's something that they're progressing as far as that character goes. But I kind of wanted her to say, and also you had the Intersect in your head for 4 years. So logic.
See, now I wasn't really, I'm back to not liking Morgan, and I don't like that. Because in the first season, Morgan was nothing but annoying to me. And I remember talking about it on this very podcast. And I was the only one because everybody else liked Morgan, but I found him annoying. And until he started to show that, he's not just some, the goofy sidekick. He actually had something to offer. And with the Intersect, I thought, well, here's a great opportunity. I knew it was going to be different because the Intersect for Morgan is, it's like, I already have, the mask and the cape. Just, this is going to let me fly, whereas with Chuck, he got the Intersect and he's like, well, I don't want this. Get it out of me quick. And, he really didn't want any part of it. He wasn't the hero. Morgan always wanted to be the hero. So I just kind of feel like the Intersect has really turned Morgan, and I'm sure this is the way it's supposed to be, turned him into a jerk. And I thought it would be funny, to see Morgan with the Intersect and see him screw up and, some of the slapstick, be funny. But I'm disappointed that it's not. I'm disappointed that I'm seeing a Morgan that I really don't like. I don't like him at all. I think he's just a complete tool.
I agree. And I think we're supposed to. That doesn't mean that I like it, but I think we're reacting the way that we're supposed to react.
I guess so. I just
wish that we didn't have to go through this.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's a reason why he's going to go through this. I think the Intersect has been a great tool to, as character development for Chuck. And certainly, hopefully, it'll be that way for Morgan too. I don't think that Chuck is the perfect handler for Morgan, to be honest with you. I don't because he's too close to him. Yeah. I think that Casey would be a much better handler for Morgan by far. Yeah.
Because do you think they would survive the week?
Well, they did.
I do actually. Yeah. Because Morgan, he's not going to push Casey back. Whereas with Chuck, he has always been able to talk his way around Chuck and get Chuck to do what he wants to do. He's always been that way.
Mind you, he doesn't know who Luke Skywalker is anymore.
Right. I think, this Morgan, he would push Casey back.
Well, he might, but Casey won't. Casey is made of tougher stuff than Chuck. He doesn't have that, even though they're all kind of like a family sort of unit there, they're a team. He wasn't best friends with Morgan like Chuck was. So he doesn't have that connection. They had started actually on a different connection, which was very, very pleasant and was a lot of fun. And so I think that could have worked a lot better.
A little bit of an understated entrance for Justin Hartley.
Yeah, they really didn't do much with him.
No, I was surprised.
Yeah.
That
was another thing that kind of was a disappointment, is that they didn't utilize the guest stars except Carrie Ann Moss, who I think deserves her own segment. They didn't utilize Jeff Fahey and Justin Hartley very well, because they had an opportunity there to parallel the Chuck and Morgan relationship, which is about, it's as close as brothers. They had and one of them, and that Morgan was basically going to betray Chuck, And they had a chance to really parallel that with these two brothers, with the Schneiders. And, they kind of did. If you really look for it, you see it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that. But it didn't gel in the way that a lot of episodes have, because, they love to do those parallel storylines.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't, I don't know. I don't know if they were trying to do too much, if the Verbanski stuff just kind of overshadowed everything because they realized, wow, this is awesome. We have a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And, they kind of dropped everything else. I don't know what happened. I don't want it to sound like I hated this episode, because I didn't. But
no, I didn't hate it. Yeah.
It's not a 10 for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
But Gertrude,
it's maybe a 6.5.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
For me.
6.5, 7. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was among the best, but I thought it was solid. I see it as preparing for some really interesting stuff coming up, and I know you've seen more, but obviously at the end with Morgan going to Verbanski, that's going to be a cause for some interesting stories.
My jaw was on the floor. I was watching it with my mom. She came over to watch the screener, and about, I don't know, I think it was about the time he didn't care about trilogy movie night. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
They wouldn't, would they? No. Yes. Holy crap, they did it. So
yeah.
I liked that though. I liked that was there's some continuity there, because one of the major complaints at the end of season 4 when Morgan was intersected was, but Chuck is special. They can't just intersect Morgan. Chuck is special. He's supposed to be, what happened? Did they forget about that? No. As I've been saying all summer. And I think Gray was chiming in on this some too. And Liz, I think, was too.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Morgan was able to download the Intersect does not mean he can handle it.
That's right.
Just like Beretta's, just like Shaw, just because it could enter his brain doesn't mean that he will be a success with it. So far, Chuck is the only one who's been able to be a success with the Intersect.
Yeah, and I think tonight's episode more than showed that. I mean, it was clear to me that just the fact that Morgan was forgetting these, he forgot who Indiana Jones was. Really, Morgan Grimes forgets Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
there's something already going wrong.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, at least talking with Phil, he says that there's a pretty solid run starting with the next episode. So I'm pretty eager to see what that run looks like.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I've said, I'm already loving Gertrude. And the fact that she and Adam Baldwin, Carrie Ann Moss and Adam Baldwin, they have some crazy chemistry.
Yeah.
That's going to be good. Going to be good.
Did you catch that at the end when Sarah had called in Verbanski Corp to rescue Morgan and Chuck, and Gertrude's leaving, and she's always a pleasure, John. And as he turns to watch her, and she trips.
Yes. Yeah. I did see that.
Yeah.
She's not as cool as she looks.
Not when it comes to John Casey, I guess.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I saw that. That was good.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
So,
and then Casey working up the nerve to call her and then hanging up.
That was actually kind of cute. That was cute.
Cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And of course we had Devin doing the commercial for the Buy More, which I thought was really fun. It redeemed what was and actually I think it was fun to see Big Mike in the older commercial.
Yeah.
That was so bad.
Yeah.
And brought back such horrible memories. Oh my god.
Bell bottoms and polyester.
See how thin I was.
And all that hair.
Yeah.
But the big news, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Big Mike and Bologna are married.
Hmm?
Well, it's not news, but
Big Mike's officially Morgan's stepdad.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to see the wedding.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad. Considering his description of the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it would be funny. to have Chucksters put together a scenario for Big Mike's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Fanfic challenge.
I'm throwing down the gauntlet. The challenge is on.
Yeah. So,
it's fun. Okay, so my favorite part was watching Awesome walk into the Buy More in slow motion with the spark on
with the wind machine.
Yeah.
You know, just woo! It got a little warm in my house.
Did it?
Just a little.
Yeah, and then at the end when they're watching the commercial and Casey says, it's like his eyes are following everyone in the store.
Yes, with his smooth skin and his unbelievably high cheekbone.
Yeah.
And did you catch Big Mike says I'm so over Jeffster, and Lester's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Though I'm sure it'll be back.
Just saying, that wasn't a throwaway line.
No?
Nope.
Interesting. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Cool. So
Jeff though, opening his shirt.
Yeah.
That's a throwaway moment. You can just excise that from your memory.
Thank you.
Didn't need to see that.
I already did.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing it back up again.
Yeah. So I guess that's about all about the episode.
Sarah got to do some rock climbing and show a little more of the strength of her friendship with Casey, which was nice.
Yeah.
I like it when we see what goes on between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Groovy. So, and we didn't see a lot about next week in the promo, but enough to know that it is going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yep. It's going to be, there's some really great stuff in there. Sorry. Someone's messaging me.
Cool. So I guess we'll just hear from our sponsors for a bit before we close out and go to our spoilerish stuff. So here we go. For handheld footage that looks like a Steadicam, try GlideCam. Starting at only $369. Look at the difference it makes. A great source for inexpensive DSLR accessories is jag35.com. Field monitors from $249, shoulder rigs, sliders, and more. For high-end field monitors, go to smallhd.com. A higher resolution monitor means better photos and videos. And those were our sponsors. I do want to actually mention, really, really exciting is that I'm not going to have to ask for money anymore. And that's really, really, really good because I've been very, very fortunate to land a bunch of new sponsors. And so I'm very, very thankful for these companies sponsoring the podcast. And you'll be hearing a little bit more from them. There probably will be a little bit of a trade-off. There'll be a few more ads in the podcast, but just know what it means is that I'm not going to have to ask for money, which I'm sure you're excited about. But please do send in your thoughts and questions, mail@chuckpodcast.com. And right now we're going to go to actually some cool spoilers. So if you like spoilers, just roll on through. Otherwise, thanks for joining us. And we're back. What kind of spoilers have we got?
Well, thanks to our source, whose name rhymes with Hismedak, we have the title for Check episode 507, which is this season's Christmas episode. The episode is currently slated to air after Christmas, thanks to NBC bumping the premiere back a week. Really smooth. It's titled Chuck versus the Santa Suit. And this is the episode with Stan Lee cameoing as himself, I believe.
Very cool.
Yeah, and Liz and
that
I
guy showing up
saw him. Yeah, we saw him at Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Liz's niece flipped out.
Huge fan.
Cool. Wow.
Huge fan. Yeah. Yeah, she's an artist herself, and she is huge comic book fan, and she's been a fan of Stan Lee's for, since she was, knee high to a grasshopper. And she saw him in an alcove there. They're waiting for their ride, and she literally kind of just stopped dead, turned, and just like walked towards him with her hand out. What did she say, Mel? She
said, it's so cute. She's, how old is she? 24, 25? She's graduated from college. But she grasps his hand and she says, "I'm so glad you exist." It was so cute. He was very gracious.
He was.
It's like, I'm never washing this hand again.
It's all she talked about the rest of the time we were there.
Wow.
That, Joss Whedon.
Yes, that's right.
So, well, next week's episode is titled Chuck versus the Frosted Tips. And no, it has nothing to do with New Year's. I don't think. But who knows?
Where did that come from?
Well, Frosted Tips, you were just talking about the Santa suit, Hey, you had his meat act.
Okay.
It's late night in the central Midwest, so leave me alone. All right. Well, when life as the Intersect inflates, jeez, I can't even, now you got me all upset. When life as the Intersect inflates Morgan's ego, Chuck is tested as both his handler and his friend. Carrie-Ann Moss guest stars once again. As the team is tasked with finding one of the CIA's most wanted, Chuck fears that the Intersect may be going to Morgan's head, RR. Meanwhile, Sarah helps Casey navigate his relationship with Gertrude. Elsewhere, Captain Awesome makes a startling revelation about Jeff and Lester.
A revelation about Jeff and Lester.
Uh-oh.
That sounds weird.
Yeah, and just even weirder that it's, Captain Awesome making the discovery. What's he doing with them?
There was some foreshadowing this week, so.
Yeah, interesting.
Run away, Devin, run away.
Well, and of course we've had one of the editors of Chuck on the podcast 3 times now, Matt Barber, and he tweeted this week that he was working on something pretty bittersweet, and that was that he was starting on episode 11, and he tweeted the name of the episode, and that was Chuck versus the Bullet Train. And there was a little bit of confusion. When people saw that tweet, they thought, "Oh no, there's only 11 episodes now." He just meant that personally editing, because there's 3 editors, so somebody else will do 12, somebody else will do 13. So that's the last episode he's going to be editing. That is kind of sad.
Yeah. It's coming down to the wire.
Yeah.
But he did say that he had just finished episode 8, which is the Sarah Walker Bartowski episode, and it's really good. And that's the one that in the conference call, Chris Fedak just gushed over it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, yeah. I asked him which episode he's most excited for fans to see, and he was like, all of them, and he's naming them all off, and he's like, yeah, episode 8, you guys, I mean, if you're a Sarah Walker fan at all, and I am, and he's like, and I count myself as one of them, this is going to be your favorite episode ever.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
Yep, I'm there. And let's make sure everybody else is there. Friday nights at 8, 7 Central.
On NBC.
Yep. We do the bird thing. We have to do the bird thing.
Yeah. We got to do the.
Cool. Well, so that's it. That's all we have for this podcast. And there's 11 more episodes of Chuck. Wow. But I'm sure they're going to be great ones.
Yes, you guys are not going to want to miss next week.
Yeah.
For the final sequence alone, the action sequences, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, on that note, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.